Welcome to PM Express, and we are looking at Ghana's HIV status. Yes. Now, once upon a time, I mean, you could not have been more horrified when you were driving or you're going to a hospital and all over the hospital walls were crossbones and skeletons with HIV AIDS written on them. And the chief broadcasters would say, it was so scary. And we all got the stigma and petrified to the point that people prefer that, you know what, I'd rather not know my status at all. I mean, to live knowing that there were some animals in me going to eat me alive, and, you know, your lifespan was 8 years, and it was terrifying. But gradually, the AIDS Commission educated us and explained to us that, you know, indeed, if you have HIV, you could, you know, carry on living your life as somebody who has, you know, blood pressure. All you had to do was just take your medication. And so the stigma went down, and indeed Ghana did very well. You know, we went very low, very impressive. But somewhere along the line, one would say maybe complacency set in. And so as complacency set in, when was the last time you saw a HIV advert, or when was the last time you saw a HIV poster, or attended a seminar, or, you know, had your local nurse in the area come to educate you on HIV? I don't know. My name is Nanan Sakwa, the fourth chief of Akomo Dumasa, and today we're going to find out the HIV status now in Ghana, have a little education. You know what? You don't want to move. It's shocking. We're coming back. Hello, and thank you very much for staying. Sat right next to me is Mukaila Adamu, who is a CSO advisor, US AIDS, People, Health and Projects, right? For projects. Good. Mukaila, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
This is not your first time.
Yes.
So I can't find you a bottle of wine. But Edem Kawubahini. That's Edem's first time. So my viewers and I will find you a bottle of wine.
Sure.
And
definitely.
He's the Vice President, Ghana HIV AIDS Network.
Sure.
Very good. Now, I'll start with Mukaila. Mukaila, you've done a research because mandatorily the District Assembly Common Fund have to designate a portion, which is 0.5%, to do HIV awareness and education. So I'll leave you there to give us the status of what's happening to that fund. Actually, no, that's not fair. Let me go to Adam. Adam, once upon a time, we were doing very well. We were doing very bad on HIV, and then we're doing, you know, very impressive, and now we seem to be doing bad. So just give us a little history of that.
Thank you very much. Like you said, once upon a time, HIV came to Ghana. Initially, we heard about it as a deadly disease. So once you get HIV, you are surely going to die. And then, like you said in the intro, we see pictures of skeletons, and that put a lot of fear in the populace. So based on that, we had to do a lot of research, study. We went to Uganda to do some study. We did a lot of study, and we realized that HIV is not as scary as we thought it was. So with that, we came back to educate the populace about what HIV is, what AIDS is, how you can get it, how you can prevent it. So we did all that, and then people got to know that, oh, then it's after all not so scary or so deadly as we thought it was. Then along the line, whilst the education was going on, we had the opportunity to get some treatment, which we call the antiretroviral drugs, the ARVs. So with that, people living with HIV started taking the medication. And once you start taking that medication, you live strong, you live healthy, and then nobody sees that you are sick and bony and all that. So the way the treatment was going, and then everybody, those people living with HIV were improving and looking stronger and healthier. I mean, we became so complacent and thought, oh, now everything is normal, everything is okay. HIV is not so scary, and then there's treatment. Even if I have it, there's treatment. So the way we used a lot of efforts in educating the public, in doing a lot of conferences, workshops, seminars, and then there were T-shirts, brochures, flyers, even music and videos and all that. All those things reduced gradually. And the worst of it was that funding for the programs also reduced. Donors were sending some money for us to do these programs, and the donor funding was reducing. Whilst donor funding was reducing, the government of Ghana was also supposed to augment or complement. But the government of Ghana's contribution was also not coming. And that is where the District Assembly Common Fund also comes in. So the district is supposed to set up 0.5% of its common fund specifically for HIV activities. Now that money, we realized that it was too small to do what we are supposed to do. So we realized that now most of the NGOs and CBOs and FBOs are folding up. They cannot do the work because we've used our own resources to do a lot of programs.
So from where did we fall to, and where have we risen to?
Where did you fall in terms of?
In terms of at the height of HIV, what was our percentage, or how many people in the population had HIV? Where did we reduce to, and where have we risen up to?
Okay, initially the percentage was so high, what was it? It was 3.4. And then
4% of
3.4% of the population, yes, okay, was HIV positive. That was around the year 2000, 2005, thereabout. Then with the education and the programs, it came down gradually. Until 2014, it was 1.4.
That's a big drop.
Yes, a big drop. Then, because of the complacency, it started rising. 2015, 2016, it's now how much? 2.4. From 1.6 to 2.4.
So 3.4,
yes,
we came down to 1.6.
Then it's now gone up to 2.4 again.
Okay, so I'll leave you there, and then I'll bring Bunkaila in, because okay, you've done a research into the funding, and what did you find out?
Yeah, basically we're also trying to look at it, like he indicated. If you look at the history, most of the funding is coming from donor partners. For instance, if you take 2012, $109 million was spent on HIV. Out of that, 79% was just coming from outside. Government contribution was just about 4.1%.
Okay, look, if you raise your voice a bit for me.
Yeah, government percentage was just about 4.1%.
Wow.
And the other one was just coming from the private sector. In 2013, donor funding reduced drastically from $109 million to $67 million. And then government increased its contribution to 10%. And around 2014, it was $68 million, and government contribution was just 7%. So if you see the fact that donor funding keep on reducing, then there's a need for the government to augment that kind of the shortfall. So we try to look at the funding. How is HIV funded in Ghana, and especially the district level where most of the issues are. So at the district level...
Let me come in before you continue, but why are the foreigners more interested in us not getting HIV than we are ourselves? Because you would expect that we will put in 80 and somebody will put in 10, but exactly, not somebody in their country will put in 80 and then you
put in just 4%.
When you are the one going to
You are the one going. Yeah, that is the irony of it. That is the irony. It means that we ourselves, we are not committed to the fight against the HIV. People are rather interested in fighting HIV. So now that they decided that, oh, it's now time for you to start contributing something towards HIV, they decided to reduce their funding. We are now in this kind of situation where you see HIV now rising, at least within the last 3 years, from 1.6, 1.8, and now 2.4. So it means that if nothing is done about it, in the next 10 years, we'll go back to the 3 point something or even 4%. And if even worse, when this is just among the general population. Let me bring this thing to the layman's understanding, so that if you take 100 people It means that 3 people will have HIV.
Okay.
But if you look at the subgroups within the general population, that is the general population. But if you look at the subgroup, we have the key population. The key population here refers to men who have sex with men.
Okay.
And then female sex workers. And we also have people who inject themselves with drugs, and then prisoners. Now, if you take men who have sex with men, if you take 100 people, roughly 18 of them are HIV positive.
That's high.
That's very high. And the issue is that these
So that's like an
men,
epidemic, or has it,
Yes.
haven't gotten there yet?
It's even past the epidemic.
And the main issue here is that it's not that these men only have sex with men. They have wives. They have girlfriends. And if among them is about 18%, then you know the implication. In the next 10 years, if they just, even just one wife and then one girlfriend, then you should expect, pandemic. And if you take the female sex workers, it's about 11.5. That is, if you take 100 people, almost 12 of them have HIV. And if they can have up to maybe 3-4 customers a day, then you can imagine. So then it means that we need to do something. And that is why we decided to look at the funding, so that we can start doing the things that we used to do. When the funding from donor partners were coming in. And at the district level, the main funding for HIV is the 0.5% of
From
the disassembly common fund for HIV programs. So we decided to conduct a research to see whether that money is actually enough for the districts to use to implement HIV programs. And 2, whether the assemblies are compliant. There's a guideline as to how to use the 0.5. So we wanted to find out whether the districts are complying with the guidelines. So that was the main purpose of our study.
Now, you see, this district assembly common fund, even in the best of times, nothing happens.
That is it.
So, with all intention, or even if I probably put Edem there, and I know Edem is like a strong advocate, he's probably not even going to get the money
Exactly.
to even go and do it.
That is the issue.
So
if you look at the actual amount that gets to the district, we did the study in 3 regions, in the Greater Accra, Eastern, and the Northern region, and in 15 districts. And if you put the 15 districts together, the total amount for the year is less than 430 Ghana cedis for 15 assemblies, which means that on average, they receive less than 10,000 Ghana cedis per year for HIV programs. And according to the guidelines issued by Ghana AIDS Commission, they are to spend that money in 5 thematic areas. Now, if you take management and coordination, it has to do with meetings, organizing seminars to educate people on HIV and AIDS. Then we have monitoring of AIT centers, NGOs who are into HIV programs. Then we have the advocacy aspect, which include the celebration of HIV and AIDS Day, creating awareness among communities. Then we have the mitigation. The mitigation basically is for those who are currently living with HIV in the district. It goes to support them. And some orphans, as a result of HIV, develop both parents in their district. You can use the mitigation to support them. And then finally, administration. So these are the 5 areas that the assemblies are supposed to use the 0.5. And our research actually indicated that they are not even complying with the guideline. First of all, the money is too small. 2, like you indicated, the money is in arrears. If you take 2014, for instance, the last quarter is still in arrears up to now.
2014,
the last quarter is still in arrears. 2015, they paid all the 4 quarters. 2016, they paid 3 quarters, so the last quarter is also in arrears.
So there are 2 quarters missing?
Yes. So if the money is not enough in the first place, and it's also in arrears, and there's some level of misapplication, even at the district level. For instance, you are not supposed to use the HIV funds to repair assembly cars or any other issues. But in some districts, that is what they rely on when there's a broken down vehicle to repair their vehicles.
And then, let me bring you in here. Priority-wise, now apart from that, there's the money issue.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it priority? We put it at the bottom of the ladder as well, or is just purely a funds issue?
Well, it's not purely funds issue. Priority also comes in. Now, there are a lot of diseases that are coming up. A lot of, how do you call it, communicable diseases that are coming up. So they are all competing for the same funds. So that is one factor. Then government support, or somebody could say political will, is also not very strong. In a country like Uganda, or most of the Southern African countries where HIV was very devastating, they managed to be able to curb it because government funding was there. Commitment of the political will was also there. And then the funds was also there. So they continued consistently, and then their story has changed. But here, all these competing issues are there, and then the government support is not coming. The one that comes also is not, I mean, like he said, is in arrears. See, so it has made, like I said earlier in the beginning, the way we started with the education, testing, know your status campaign, other things, I mean, all those things have stopped. So it's like, oh, yatiabre. So HIV is no more a death sentence. It's no more so serious. So now there's TB, there's malaria, there's, how do you call it, hypertension, there's cancer. I mean, all sorts of infections or diseases are also coming up. So it's no more HIV alone. So there are competing issues that the same money has to go to. That is one other factor as well.
Anytime you go to the petrol stations, right, and the box of condoms. Mm-hmm. I mean, the price of it alone, it inspires HIV. I mean, if you are, a low-income earner, I mean, you're out of that price range. Has that factor also come in to see whether maybe condoms will be a bit cheaper for people to be able to afford?
When donor funding was available, the Ghana AIDS Commission purchases condoms. Ghana Health Service purchases condoms. Some of the civil society partners also produce or they provide condoms. So condom was available everywhere, even for free distribution. But along the line, we realized that the free distribution was also causing some problems because people take free things for granted. And they thought it was free because it is inferior. Okay. So people started, when you give them the condom, instead of them to use it for the purpose of which the condom was given, they use it for other things. People use the condom for balloons. When the female condom came, people were using the female condom to do kaba designs and so many other things. So you realize that the condoms that were being provided are not being purchased or are not being used. They prefer to go to the drugstore or to the filling station, like you said, and purchase the quality ones. They tell me the quality ones, which is also very expensive. And those ones are brought in by businessmen. They are doing business with it. Definitely, the prices will go up. So it's also a factor.
I mean, we are now up to 2.4 from 1.6. Yes. Obviously, it's sort of in relation to how much of a campaign we are not doing anymore. Yeah. I mean, we've done a lot of campaign. Yes. Could just pulling adverts and not putting posters and not doing seminars have caused this? Or is it just pure complacency that even if we do adverts, people don't care anymore?
It's all, like I said, all factors combined together. Because, like I said earlier on, people have heard it several times. So it's like, it's nothing serious, it's nothing new. So the seriousness that we have to attach to it, that, hey, there's HIV, I need to protect myself, I need to avoid this, I need to avoid that. People think, oh, or die, excuse me to say, or die be die. It's not a political issue, but people say, even if I die from HIV, it's death. If I die from lorry accident, it's death. So there's no need to worry myself. So the complacency also is part of it, and then the other factors also accounted for it.
I think
so
we sat down to what he's saying, the other issue has to do with the funding. It has to do with the funding. Currently, we've moved from the posters and those things to know your status. So currently, they are implementing the 90 target. What it means is that at least 90% of people living with HIV should know their status by the year 2020. And out of those who know their status and they are positive, they should be put on sustained treatment. And out of that, 90% of them should be put on sustained treatment. And we expect that when they are put there, 90% of them will achieve viral suppression. That is the stage at which, if you get to that stage, you can no more affect any other person with HIV, even if you are HIV positive. This is the strategy that we are using. But because there's no funding, you go and do education. People want to test. But no where are the test kits?
I'm going to take a quick break and come here. This is a multifaceted case. I will hope that people who have, pens that can sign the checkbooks are listening. We're coming straight back. Well, thank you very much for staying. And let me quickly acknowledge our new young cameraman who's in studio, Josiah Haney, whose father is on set, and so he's behind the camera taking pictures. And I hear Josiah is at Rainy Preparatory School at Abeka. So, when you see him in school, know that he was on set taking photos. But we are looking at a serious subject and the rise of HIV, in the country again. Why? Because we are getting complacent. We're not putting money in education, and we're not putting money into that sector again. And I think it's sad news. From 3.4% of the population who, had HIV, we went all the way down to 1.6, and we should have by now probably be hitting 0.8 or something, just nipping it off the bat. We're gradually coming to 2.4 again. I mean, that's just too sad. And then what's going to happen is we're going to use half of our GDP to go and buy, retroviral tablets to go and, it's just, I think it's cost effective to do more education than buy the tablets. Let me bring Ebenezer in here. Are they, is the state still supplying the retrovirals, or you have to pay for them?
Yes, the state is supplying. Is supplying, but they need to pay something small.
Okay.
Exactly. So PS, once you go, you pay something small for a month's supply.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a shame, because I know they are not cheap, because they're subsidized.
Exactly, subsidized.
So we would have been better off, educating people and bringing it down. But really, so which department? Is there any figurehead? Is it the AIDS Commission? Who's supposed to, make the noise to say, look, give me money, let me spearhead this thing?
Interestingly, if you say that, even Ghana AIDS Commission is supposed to be making that noise. But if you look at the budgetary allocation for Ghana AIDS Commission within the last 3 years, in 2014, it was 31 million Ghana cedis. And now, as I talk to you now, it's about 9.8 million Ghana cedis.
Wow.
About 68% reduction. And even that, 82% of that 9.8 million is going to seminars and workshops. The other 18 is for salaries. So it means that there's nothing left for the campaign and other issues. So but currently they are also having a strategic plan that they are implementing, which they want to reduce new infections by 80%. Currently it's around 12,000 new infections per annum.
Okay.
And if you want to reduce that by 80% in the year 2020, and the money is not coming, how are you going to do that?
I mean, apart from you telling me, I didn't even know about it.
If you're not within the circles, you don't know.
So that may even tell somebody.
Yes. So that is the challenge. If we want to reduce new infection by 80%, HIV-related death by 80%, and we are not putting in more money,
more resources
to be able to do that, then we end up getting the situation that we are getting. The AIDS Commission will be there, but they cannot work because, I mean, you just pay their salaries, nothing for them to work with. And at the end of it, that is the situation we are in now. That is why we are making a lot of, we are bringing this thing out so that I mean, with the support of the media, let's also see it as another form of galamsey.
I know.
So that at least if government can do something about it, if nothing at all, if they can increase the common fund from 0.5% to at least 2% to support the fight of HIV at the district level. We are also saying that in districts where the prevalence is very high, at least they should also set aside at least 5% of their internally generated funds to support the fight of HIV at the district level. That is the only way we'll be able to deal with this issue. We want to eliminate HIV. The world target of eliminating HIV is 2030. And if we don't put in enough resources, especially domestic resources, and rely on donor funding, then I'm afraid we'll not be able to hit the target.
You did the research. I mean, the North, Eastern, and Accra, which ones were showing, high prevalence of HIV?
Well, we didn't actually go into. We were just looking at the funding.
Okay.
But we know very well that those days it used to be Eastern region, but now Brona Hafo and Volta region, they are coming out very strongly. So it means that something needs to be done. It used to be Eastern region for some time now, but Brona Hafo and Volta region are coming out very strongly.
But among the three, the Greater Accra, the Eastern, and the Northern, Eastern is ahead.
Okay.
Then Greater Accra follows, then Northern also follows.
But
like you said, Volta and BA, right now, they are the leading regions, the highest prevalence.
Just catch it up.
Yeah.
That's the wrong place to catch up. But Adam, why would you find out? Why would MSM, more prevalence than, FSW, if I may put it so? Men having sex with men seem to be higher than women, in the sex industry. Why are the men more at risk than the...
Well, the factors cannot be, you cannot pinpoint one particular factor and say it is because of this. There are a lot of factors.
Okay.
The risk of exposure to infection is more higher because, excuse my language, where the male organ is supposed to penetrate is very, close, and there are bruises and sores and cuts. So it's one of the factors. So there are a lot of factors. So you cannot pinpoint and say just one reason why. So there are many factors.
So, I mean, should we get money now? What would be the new strategy?
The new strategy will be more education, sustainable education. Once we sustain the education, we had a partnership program with P4H, that is Ghana HIV and AIDS Network, and other civil society organizations had a partnership program with P4H or Send Ghana. And we wanted to go into a lot of advocacy, education, and other activities, but we are being held back by lack of funds. We are gradually moving forward. This is one of them, where we engage the media, we engage the donors, we engage government, we engage Parliament, the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health. We engage all of them so that we take it from there. And once we're able to get funding, the campaign will continue sustainably, and then we'll be able to do like we did before, be able to do more to bring the awareness. And then even the issue of stigma, is also very high. If somebody knows that I am HIV positive, the stigma that comes with. You are stigmatized personally. Exactly. You are stigmatized personally. Your family is stigmatized. Your home is stigmatized. Your church is stigmatized. I mean, wherever you go, the stigma is there. Even in the healthcare settings, stigma is there. So I know a lot of people who are living with HIV/AIDS, but they are strong and healthy until the person tells you, I am positive. You cannot know. And I don't have the right to tell you that this man is positive or that man is positive. There are laws right now, so you cannot do that. So the virus is spreading. People are living with HIV. A lot of people are living with HIV, even including the high-level ranking Ghanaians living with HIV. So if we put in the resources, we want to stem the tide rather than sit down and think HIV is a thing of the past. Oh, so say it's okay, but it's not okay.
Which class is it more prevalent? One would say, the uneducated, non-skilled worker, or the banker, white collar, suit. Which ones?
It cuts across.
Yeah, even
it cuts across.
interestingly, we used to think that it's a rural kind of this thing, but if you consider the last this thing, the rural rate is about 1.7, and the urban is about 2.4. So it's more or less urban now than even rural.
But with the class of people, it cuts across. The youth are in the majority. Youth, between 18 to 25, or 16 to 25 are in the majority. Then from 25 to 34 are also in the higher rank. So it doesn't specifically say those in the white-collar job or those who are artisans or students, or it cuts across.
What should the average person be aware of? Just knowing your status, or?
That is the most important thing. The first step is know your status. Once you know your status, if you are positive, you are putting on treatment. You adhere to the treatment regime, and then you live stronger and healthier. If you are not positive, during the test, you are taken through counseling, psychosocial counseling, to know that if I'm not positive, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. So once that education goes on, if you go and test and you're negative, you are okay. You know what to do not to be positive. If you test and you are positive, you know what to do to live strong and healthy. We have people, some of our colleagues we call models of hope. People living with HIV who have been trained as peer educators, peer counselors. So if you come and you test and you are positive, and you are broken down, you are sad and all that, we bring in the models of hope to help you, to counsel you, to know that I am in the same situation. I have been where you were. Now I am strong. I almost died. Now I'm strong. I'm healthy. So there's hope. You don't need to give up. You don't need to cry. You don't need to kill yourself, because there's medicine. Once you comply and go with it, you are strong and you are healthy. So we need to sustain the education. We need to improve resources, increase resources, and then be able to sustain the campaign. And we can make it. I mean, the prevalence can still come down. Stigma will be reduced, HIV will be reduced, stigma will come down, everything will come down, and then we'll live stronger and healthier to build a better Ghana for all of us.
See, one thing people want to hear, particularly, I mean, somebody has diabetes, it's okay, there's no cure. Somebody has hypertension, he understands there's no cure. You know, there's so many other diseases that everybody thinks, well, there's no cure. Me, I wear glasses, probably there's no cure. I'm always going to wear glasses. But as soon as it's HIV, people want cure. And therefore, there are people in the market who say, look, I've got the cure. You know, and then you can even step further who say, I'll pray for it to go away. I mean, so how do we, because the guy wants the comfort to say, listen, I've been cured of the disease. He doesn't want to say, I've been suppressed, so I can't affect anybody, because if I'm suppressed, it means it's there, but it's small. No, I want it to go away. How do we deal with that?
For now, scientists are still researching. A lot of research is still going on to find a cure. But the way the virus behaves in the human body, it is difficult to destroy the virus without destroying the human cell. Because once it gets into your body, it attacks your cell, your CD4 cells, replicates and becomes like the CD4 cell. So if you try to destroy the CD4 cell or destroy the virus, you are destroying the CD4 cell. And eventually you are killing yourself. So there's a series of tests and research that is still going on. But the issue of cure is still a problem, because like you said, some religious persons, some herbalists claim they have cure. And like you said, once there's a cure, everybody wants to go for the cure. But as at now, those that they claim they cured are still positive. Because after the treatment or after the cure for a while, you see that they start deteriorating again. And then they come back to us or come back to the hospitals. I have been doing this HIV work for about 17 years now. And I know a lot of people. I know what I'm saying. People go out there, they say, oh, I've received divine intervention. God does miracles, yes. God is miraculous. He can heal you miraculously. But not just any pastor or anybody who say that, wake up and say, I have a cure, I can pray for you to be cured. The herbalists and then those, the orthodox practitioners, some of them also claim I have a cure. They give people concoctions, they drink, and then they stop the drugs. At a point in time, they start deteriorating, then they come back. And then at that stage, when you are putting on drug again, you have drug resistance. You see, so the drug cannot work as it used to. because you've stopped for a while, the viruses have become so stubborn. So when you start taking the drugs again, the drug doesn't work. So you are putting on another level of treatment, which we call the higher ART. Understand? So it is difficult to claim that you have a cure. For now, there's still no cure, but we are still managing the treatment.
Let me take a quick break here and find out, is there anything, I mean, I know, apart from the media campaign, I don't know, maybe through the courts, to get the government to issue that check to save our lives? I don't know, we're coming straight back. Well, we are talking about the sad case of Ghana's HIV status, which is fast climbing up because of complacency and maybe negligence and lack of finance in that area. Now, the show didn't stop. We just went for a break, but the show was going on. And I think Munkala raised a very important issue about support for people living with HIV, because you need to go and collect your drugs once a month.
Yes.
And if you aren't able to come, then you're in trouble. I'll let you.
Yeah. Basically, if you take the 0.5, and then the guidelines clearly indicate that 5% of that should be set aside for mitigation. Their mitigation is basically to support those living with HIV and the orphans. And our research actually indicates that assemblies are not doing it. First of all, the money is too small, averagely around 400 Ghana cedis a year. So how many PLs can you even support in the district?
PLs are persons
living with HIV,
okay,
and orphans, and even other vulnerable groups in the district.
Okay.
So how many of them can you support with that? About less than 400 Ghana cedis. And because of that,
so they will have to travel to the district.
Exactly. Also. And in almost all the districts, we have just one AICT centers. That is the district hospital where they give out the ARTs. So if you are at the peripheries, every month you have to come to the district hospital to take your drugs. And if you don't have transportation to get to the district, and then the district is also not supporting you to be able to have access to it. It's not at the CHIPS compound that you can move in and take. That has also resulted in a high default rate, and that is making treatment of HIV for people living with HIV, especially those who are very poor and vulnerable, very, very difficult. And that is also leading to drug resistance, because you are supposed to be taking it every day. So if for one reason or the other, you are not able to go in for your monthly consignment and it gets finished, it means that the whole month you will not have your ARTs around. And that will lead to a default rate. Then you get it another time and you come, and it will lead to a resistance. So we are also trying to talk to Ghana AIDS Commission and the Assembly to also look at the guidelines. Is it possible that that 5% could also be increased to 20%? If the whole fund is increased to 2% and the mitigation aspect is also increased to 20%, then there will be enough money to support the PL groups to be able to access AIT services at the district hospital. Government should also look at decentralizing it to the CHIPS compound level, so that it becomes very easier for those within the CHIPS compounds to also communities to access AIT services at the CHIPS compound level. I think that will help in managing HIV cases at the district level.
Adam, for such a grim situation, could it be that, you know, maybe I may be suffering from HIV, but I can't come on TV and say, look, I've got HIV and I'm not getting my drugs because of the stigma? Is that why people are quiet and we are not hearing all these sad stories?
Yes, because of the stigma. You know, people living with HIV, some of them have come up. They've come out to say, I am positive. But the stigma is still very high. So those who have been able to come out are still out. They are still talking. We were supposed to come with one of them, but maybe during another program we'll come with another person. So they are willing to come out, but because of the stigma. So once the education goes on for you to know how HIV is transmitted, how it's not transmitted, and you know that you have also not tested, and once you have not tested, you don't know what is in you, you cannot point your finger at somebody. So once the education continues to go out, people living with HIV will willingly come out to tell the world that I am positive. This is what happened to me. This is what I'm going through. this is where I was from, this is where I am now. I mean, people were willing to come out. But if the funds are not there, the support is not there, and then the stigma is still high, people living with HIV will not be willing to come out.
I'm just looking at how we are overstretched on everything. I mean, finance minister went to parliament, says, look, I don't want any more money, I'm cutting out on my expenditure. I'm wondering, what is it that we can do to ginger up the priority to maybe divert money from somewhere into this, because there's lives at stake?
I think we need to come out with evidence for government to know that this is what is happening. I don't know whether he's aware that the HIV prevalence is going up. Once it's going up, it has more than health implications. It has also have economic implications. So we need to look at it from that angle, that once somebody is having HIV and AIDS, it also have some implications on the economy. We need to do more. And then I'm not calling only the government, central government. We can also look at the assemblies, and they also generate internally generated funds. Is it possible that they can start looking at it and start budgeting for HIV programs at the district level?
Can corporates help?
Exactly. Corporate Ghana can help.
Yes.
Civil society will help. All of us, the ministries, departments, and agencies will help. The media will help. The religious authorities will help. Traditional authorities, you are in a very good position. All of us should put our hands on board. Once we are all on board, we will to go far. But if we leave it only to Ghana AIDS Commission, or only to the donors, or only to civil society, then we cannot go far. We need to do more advocacy. Like he said, we need facts. We need data. If you look at this report, this is the report we're talking about. Among HIV AIDS, among top 10 causes of death in Ghana, but not a priority for government budgetary allocation. You see, so once we are all able to advocate very well and talk and involve all partners, we're able to go somewhere. And we can be able to make headway and then reduce the pandemic, reduce it down. But if we leave it to a few people to do, we'll still be in the same soup.
I don't know. I haven't, I may be wrong, but I haven't seen any HIV awareness being done in my village yet. Maybe it has been done maybe on a Tuesday when I wasn't there or something, but I haven't quite heard. I always hear people coming to check your eyes, people come to check blood pressure, come to check asthma. You know, like 2-3 groups come in the same week to check asthma. Say, how many asthma patients do I have? You know, but I haven't seen or heard HIV, particularly from the district. So it's your Jamai district. I need to call and check up if indeed we are doing any awareness and where it is that we are doing it. But can can the average citizen check up with district that, hey, where is our education coming from?
Yes, if the education is even there, but the issue is that if I want to know my status, that means that I have to test. And is the test kits available? In one district, for instance, when we're doing this research, they wanted to, on a World AIDS Day, they requested for some test kits to do education. They did the education all right. As many as 500 people came out for testing, and they were given only 100 test kits. So it means that it's 400 people, even though they are prepared to test, the test kits are not available. You can do the education all right. You are implementing the 1980s. We are supposed to do education for people to know their status. But yet, we are not providing the logistics to help them know their status. If we don't put in the resources, if we still allow donors to fund almost all the HIV programs, then that is, it will come to a stage that, I mean, we'll find ourselves in a state that we'll do the campaign all right, people will be willing to test, but there wouldn't be the test kits available. And that is why we are asking government and the assemblies to, I mean, set aside some money. Just how much is the test kit? So that people will know their status. When people are HIV positive, you put them on treatment. Within 6-7 months, they achieve viral suppression. And at that stage, they can't infect any other person. And we are all safe. And if we are able to do that by the year 2020, if we are able to get 90% of those living with HIV to achieve viral suppression, then we are hoping that by the year 2030, we'll be able to eliminate HIV in Ghana.
Well, I must say that's a very, very laudable cause. So, I mean, if you're hearing me, I think it's a conversation that definitely needs to happen. To go from, I mean, to come down from 3.4 to 1, I mean, we came down to 1.6 from 3.4, and now we are 2.4. I mean, how long before we get back to 3.4? The days of the skeletons being everywhere. But just come, let's sign off. Quick, run. It's not TV, but hey, we will break the news. So you see, I told you I had a cameraman. He was all there taking pictures. So have a good week. And tomorrow will be Hard Truth, and then Thursday we'll be back to do this all over again. And I was talking to Edem Hini, who's Vice President, Ghana HIV and AIDS Network, and also Munkaila Adamu, CEO Advisor, USA People for Health. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back to do this all over again.